Welcome everyone to Tuesday Tea Time. It is my final day home before I head out on tour to Europe, and I am so grateful to have had 7 weeks at home and really get some time to catch up, and I am equally excited to be headed back out in the world and get to see so many of you. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about a subject that came up in my online course with my students. And somebody asked me this question, and I thought, this is something that I really want to think about a little bit more, and that is, do the ends justify the means? And this comes up with horses a lot because we get horses because we love them. We get horses because we want to connect with them and bond with them and do things with them and have so much fun with them. But then horse training is rarely as beautiful and peaceful as we are led to believe. And everybody tries to make it better, but it's often a lot of pressure. Training horses to be the companions we want them to be. Yay, Sylvia! I can't wait to see you in Iceland. I'm very, very excited about being there with you all. So, do the ends justify the means? So if we have to put more pressure on the horse than we're comfortable, but the end result is good, does it justify it? And you might be surprised. I think the answer is yes. I think absolutely. If your horse is better off at the end of the day, or the end of the week, or the end of the month, and they do have a better quality of life because of what they have lived through with you, it justifies it. Does that mean I'm going to choose to do things that way? Absolutely not. But you might be surprised with me. I've been thinking about this a lot, that I really do think it is justifiable to go through difficult times with horses, to put them in uncomfortable situations, if you truly believe their life will be better for it in the long run. Now, why would we put horses through something that is uncomfortable for them if there's another way to do it? And the answer is always time. People do not have enough time to do things in a way where you don't have to ask that question. Do the ends justify the means? So whatever it takes to get you to a better quality of life is probably worth it. If you feel like you're short on time, you have to get to a certain level of skill, you have to get to a certain level of proficiency, you have to get to a certain level of safety, whatever it is that you've decided is very, very important on a time scale, then life can be pretty darn uncomfortable on the way to that goal. And there's always going to be arguments about, is that justifiable? I think it is. If the goal is important enough to you, it's justifiable to go through some hard times to get there. However, I don't like to live that way. So I have developed what I call the slowest horse training method on earth, because I want to live with my horses in a way where I don't have to look back and justify what I did to them because the end result was worth it. And I think that that's something that everybody's going to have to live with, and nothing is 100% one way or the other way. So there are certainly things I do with my horses where I have to look at them and go, yeah, that was justifiable because of where it got us. But that's not the way I want to aim to live my life. The way I want to aim to live my life is so that I can love every step of the process. The means to an end are every bit as good as the end. But what that takes is time. We need more hours to enjoy the tiny details along the way to our goals. If you have time, you can enjoy every step of the process, and there's no need for that feeling of, is this justified? Is this difficulty justified in getting to the ends? Now, where this gets really interesting, I think, is when it comes to positive reinforcement or food reward training, because that can be incredibly fast. So people go, well, there's no sort of difficulty here. You can train horses really, really fast with food rewards if you're a little bit scientific about it. And yes, you can. I have found with the horses that I work with around the world that when you sacrifice the time it would take naturally, when you speed it up through the use of pressure or food or whatever you're using, you lose something. You lose something in the process. And sometimes that's entirely justifiable. There's no problem with that. But there is a trade-off. And hi, Noah. Hi, Christian. Hi, Edza. This is something that is really interesting to me. So I've spent this summer with my horses. I've had 7 weeks at home. And I really decided that I didn't want any trade-offs. I didn't want to take the faster path ever. I'm just not interested in it. I want to take the path the horse chooses. Eventually, will we get to riding and skills and safety away from home and all of those things? Absolutely, yes. But I want to take every tiny step in the project in a way that feels like I can love it. There is no need for justification. The trade-off is time. The trade-off is how slowly do you want to build skills so that you don't feel like you have to justify pressure. Now, a lot of people will use food rewards and they feel like, I don't have to justify that. That's really fun for everybody. And it is fun for everybody if that's a thing that you and your horse or you and your dog like. But there will be some trade-offs. There will absolutely be some trade-offs. And people might say, well, what are the trade-offs, Elsa? And what I will say is that horses, humans, all of us living creatures, we derive enjoyment out of our existence through our 5 senses. Our seeing, our hearing, our smelling, our tasting, our feeling. All of these 5 senses give us pleasure. When we do food reinforcement training, what happens is we overuse the sense of taste. And when we overuse the sense of taste, we underuse the other 4 senses. And that is a sacrifice. That is a way in which life becomes less rich. Maybe it's a temporary thing, and you're just going to do it for a little while to get to a certain level of proficiency, and then you'll bring the other senses back online a little bit more. Great. But for that time, you've sacrificed a little bit of the richness of life, in my opinion. So the way I strive to train is to really value all 5 senses in all 5 categories of attention so that the horse has the fullest, richest experience of life possible in the variety of things that they feel like they're willing to do. And then from there, we grow those variety of things into more things that they're willing to do, using as much time as it takes. So this is, an interesting sort of debate for everybody to think about. And that's what I do for these tea times. These tea times are discussions so that we have more things to think about together. And Christian has a very long comment here that I would love to dive into. He says, I think that can be true for the start of clicker training, but once you have a professional horse that learns very fast because the horse understood the concept, so it learns faster, like I learned pretty fast to play piano once I knew training techniques for myself. But I agree with you. You need to train your horse in all the senses with the clicker training too. Yes. So I'm right on board with you there, Christian. It's not that clicker training is bad or wrong. It's that for a little while in the beginning, it can really overly emphasize the sense of taste to the disuse of the other senses. And that will be something that will be hopefully balanced out later. Do the ends justify the means? To use that to develop a very professional horse that can learn really, really fast? Maybe. I actually think very often it does. So that's my argument, is that the means very often are justified because the end is worth it. But you sacrifice something along the way when you're in a rush to get to a goal. So thinking in this way has really given me some deep, deep thought this summer with my herd. And I've really enjoyed the sort of new perspective I have, or the new depth I have on something I've been talking about for a long time. I told you guys I would try and share a little bit of a story for each tea time. And this story is actually about how I feel like I did push one of my horses, Atlas, a little bit more for a very justifiable reason. So when Atlas came to me, he was very dangerous. He'd been trying to attack and kill people. It took a full year before he would touch me. It took much, much longer before I could touch him. It was a massively steep learning curve and so many things I didn't know as Atlas and I were working together. I decided at a certain point that Atlas needed to have friends. And he was trying to attack and kill my other horses as well. So at that time, I developed a way that I felt like he could have friends when I was around to supervise, but it was too dangerous for him to have friends when I wasn't supervising. And I felt like the end goal of him having friends more was worth a little bit more pressure to get there. And so I came up with some plans of a little bit more pressure to help him stabilize his nervous system in a way where I felt like he would be able to be safely handled by a veterinarian who could safely geld him, where we could take his testosterone levels down a little bit so that he could have more friends. I was very clear about my end goal. I was very clear about what I thought it would get Atlas and myself, and I don't regret it for an instant. He is the core of my herd now. He is everybody's favorite friend. All of my horses would rather spend time with Atlas than anybody else. Was it worth it to put a little bit more pressure on him to get to that landmark of, is he safe enough for a veterinarian to handle? Is he safe enough for the other horses to live with him full time? Yes, 100%. It was worth it. Did I lose something by pushing him a little bit faster to that end? I probably did. There's probably a lot I would have learned if I had left him a stallion and just invested more hours and said, there's a lot of roads to roam, might take a little longer. Would it be possible to stabilize his nervous system and develop his senses and develop his social skills without the added pressure of getting him to a veterinarian, getting him gelded, and all of that? I would have learned a lot. I chose not to do it. I chose to push a little harder. Do the ends justify the means is a question I had to ask myself there. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what I chose there. And I'm okay with what I potentially lost in that process. But that's a question worth asking, which is what this tea time is about. You know, when we add a little bit of pressure in any way, we're going to lose some things. We're going to lose some opportunities for learning. We're going to lose some experiences, but we're going to gain other ones. And I think that's something we can all live with the question of. If you're like me, you want everything. And I have found the best way to have everything with horses is to see what they want to offer me and then build it from there and see how much they want to offer me tomorrow and they want to offer me tomorrow, and see how much we can link that to all 5 senses so that they enjoy their life to its fullest capacity, valuing one sense no more than another sense. And that is how I choose to work. There are a few people in the world that dabble in it with me and play with that idea as well. And all of us will have to sort of confront moments where we go, I think we need to push a little harder to get to a goal for a good reason. What's the reason, and is it worth it? Kristen says, love Atlas updates. Yep. So you'd be very proud of him this week, Atlas. He went off property for the first time since I got him. So for the first time since I got him, he's come far enough that we were able to leave home, walk down the road, pass cars, pass people riding horses. And he had the confidence to be away from home for the first time ever. And we did it 4 times, I think, this week. And it just got better and better and better every time. And this is something that I have really, really, really waited for. So I have not pushed Atlas to leave home because I didn't want to miss any part of the process to getting there. And I feel really good about it. I feel really good about the whole process of developing his system to the point where leaving home was a thing we could do together. Kristen says, sounds great. Would love to see a movie about him and Ari, Evolution. But my docu will take 9 years to finish, so it's fine. Yep. You know, some things take time. This is kind of what we're talking about, is that when we lower the amount of pressure, things take more time. And I thought I took a ton of time in the first movie, and I did. But I also gave myself the limit of a year. And so there were some things that I skipped over to get to where I wanted to get in the end of that year with Myrna, that I feel determined that I don't want to skip with Ari and Atlas. And so everything's a little slower because I don't want to miss a moment of this evolution. And I am filming every week. There will be a documentary about it at some point. But we're seeing where that wants to develop, one step of progress at a time. Kristen says, I guess your amount of pressure is still low compared to others. Yeah. So everything's comparison. My amount of pressure is going to be quite low compared to most people. But compared to my ideals, it will be higher or lower. When my amount of pressure is higher than my ideals, I will have to confront that question. Do the ends justify the means? And sometimes they will. Absolutely. Sarah says, so interesting. I'm so glad you brought this topic up today. It's worth it for XYZ. Absolutely. Yep. Noah says, go Atlas. Yeah, he's been just an absolute star. Kristen says, and sometimes there are situations when you need to do less, like freedom-based training to reach more. Yeah. So I get a lot of horses and students in my practice who have tried using more pressure and really felt like it wasn't working. And they probably just hadn't found the right type of pressure to use. But sometimes in those cases where all the things that you might justify to get to the end are just not getting to the end. And those students very often come to me and say, well, what happens if we slow down? Do we actually make more progress than when we pushed? And that it can be true also for some horses and some people. No, this is go, Elsa, for your patience. You know, it's really interesting. It doesn't feel like patience. It feels like fascination. Patience implies that we wish it was faster. And what I'm finding is I don't wish it was faster. I feel like there is barely enough moments to enjoy all of the details that I want to enjoy. And it doesn't feel like patience at all. It feels like fascination. I think that's the best word I can use. Yay, Holly, welcome to Tea Time. I'm glad you made it. So those are my thoughts today, is that yes, the ends justify the means in some cases, and you get to decide what those cases are. I am all about freedom. We have the freedom to decide what is right for us and what is right for our horses. And life will educate us. So sometimes we will get to the end of a bit of pressure and go, yep, that was worth it. And other times we will get to the end of a bit of pressure and go, I wish I'd made another choice there. And yeah, Christian, what happens if I push that red button? We're going to find out. And life educates us. And then hopefully we learn from those educational moments, and then we do better. We do better and better and better as we go. So thank you guys for joining me for tea time. My next tea time should be from Taos, New Mexico. So I will see you guys from New Mexico. If any of you guys are going to see me on my tour, I will have books with me. I'm very, very excited. The book is out. If you guys are not going to see me on tour, you guys can get it through Amazon. Taming Wild is the name of it. And I'm really, really excited to be sharing it with everybody. So have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys next week from Taos.